My name is Kenneth Doyle. I'm 57 years old, and I quietly paid for a household that stopped saving me a seat. On the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend, I was alone at my house in Guelph painting the back porch trim because I had nowhere else to be. My daughter had told me they were staying home that weekend. Sam had a hockey evaluation on the Sunday morning, and the drive to the cottage would be too much. I said okay. I meant it. I went and bought a liter of exterior white at the Canadian Tire on Stone Road and came home and painted. At 4 in the afternoon, I went inside and washed my hands and picked up my phone. My daughter had posted on Facebook, 14 people around a long harvest table at a cottage up in Muskoka. Leaves out the window, maple red and orange, the whole picture. My grandkids on either side of a woman I recognized as my son-in-law's mother, Gloria, who had a paper crown on her head from one of those pull crackers and was laughing at something off frame. Sam had his arm around her neck. Lily was on her lap. The caption said, 3 generations, so grateful for this family. I counted the people. I counted them twice, because the second count takes longer when the first one doesn't add up the way you want it to. 14 people. My daughter was there. My son-in-law was there. My grandchildren were there. There was no error in the planning. Someone had given a number to a hostess, or in this case, given a number to the grocery delivery service, because someone had driven up on Friday morning and spent the whole weekend. Someone had said the number out loud, and the number had not included me. I didn't comment. I didn't call. I opened the Interac app on my phone instead. There were 4 recurring e-transfers on the screen. I sat with them for a while. Then I put the phone face down on the kitchen table and went back outside and finished the trim because the job doesn't stop because you're having a bad afternoon. Before I tell you what came next, take a second to like and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to that Saturday. I drove to my daughter's house on the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. She'd texted me a thumbs up when I said I was coming, which is what she sends now instead of words. I had a bag of things for the kids, the good kind of Halloween candy, the kind their parents sort out of the bucket. Sam answered the door in socked feet, hair in every direction. "Hi, Ken," he said. That easy, like it had always been. I stood on the step for a second. "When did you stop calling me Grandpa?" He did that thing kids do when adults ask about something already settled. A half shrug, not unfriendly, just unbothered. Mom says Grandpa's kind of confusing because of how we see Gloria's family all the time. She said it's easier if I just use your name. When did she say that? He'd already turned back into the house. "Before the hockey tryouts, can I have the sour ones?" Lily came around the corner in socks, dragging the blanket she carries everywhere. She saw me, and her whole face went up. "Grandpa Ken?" Sam corrected her from the hallway without looking back. "Not Grandpa, just Ken." Lily stopped. She looked at her brother, then at me, waiting for one of us to sort it out. I crouched down, which my knees are starting to have opinions about. "You call me whatever feels right to you," I told her, "but I want you to know exactly who I am." Lily said okay and took the candy bag and went to find Sam. I stood in the front hallway for a minute. My daughter has a gallery wall she put up the year they moved in. Took her 2 weekends, measured everything, used paper templates first. I'd helped her hang the frames. I still have the stud finder that found those studs. I hadn't stood in that hallway in maybe 8 months. We usually met in the driveway. The photo from Melissa's wedding, the one of the 2 of us coming up the aisle, her hands on my forearm because her heels were sinking into the runner, was gone. In its place was a photo of her and Aaron under the arch, just them. The one of me holding Sam the morning he was born, reading glasses pushed up on my forehead, hospital chair behind me, gone. There were 4 new ones. Gloria at the pumpkin patch, Sam on her shoulders. Gloria and Lily at a sunflower farm somewhere. Gloria with both kids at what looked like a Christmas market, steam rising off a paper cup. I counted all the frames, 19, not one of them had me in it. I drove to my sister Frances's place out east of the city, the one with the yellow door that's been yellow since her first husband painted it in 1997. She poured 2 cups of tea, and I told her about the photo. I told it the way I'd tell a dispatcher about a call, just the facts in order. The cottage, the 14 people, the caption. She didn't say, "Oh, Kenneth," and reach across the table. "You weren't forgotten," she said. "You were left out on purpose." I started to say that was a strong way to put it. She slid something across the table. It was a flyer, glossy, the kind they drop in mailboxes before a vote. My son-in-law's face on the front. Aaron Kowalski, your voice for school board trustee, Ward 4. And along the bottom, filling the whole lower third, a photo taken on Gloria's back porch. Aaron, my daughter, both kids. Gloria, Aaron's uncle from Burlington. Everyone leaning in and laughing. Sam had his arm around Gloria's neck. Where did you get this? I asked. It's been at the dry cleaners, and at the library, and on the community center board for 6 weeks, Kenneth. I looked at the photo. Lily was wearing the jacket I'd bought her for back to school, the yellow one with the snaps. That photo was taken in August, a full 2 months before Thanksgiving. The cottage wasn't the decision. It was the announcement. The decision had already been made in August. Frances sat back. Here's what I want to know, she said. If they were done with you in August, why were they still taking your transfers in October? My brother-in-law Murray does my books. He was a purchasing manager at an auto parts plant for 20 years, and he handles all of it now, the way retired people who used to work in finance will if you feed them a good dinner twice a year. He came over on a Thursday with my year-end summary and spread it on the kitchen table while I pretended to be busy at the sink. Do you know what goes out of here every year? He asked. I knew what went out every month. That's not the same question. He turned the page around. He'd circled a number at the bottom twice in red pen. The monthly e-transfer to my daughter's account had been running since 2020. $1,400. Set up the week after she and Aaron bought the semi on Courtright, when they came up short on the mortgage payment, and she called me in a panic. I set up the transfer that night. I never mentioned it at a dinner or a birthday, or when Aaron made a comment about paramedics living on OT. The car insurance was $280 a month. My son-in-law had come onto my intact policy in 2019, when he'd had his license suspended for 6 months. When his license came back, the rate stayed with me because my record is clean and his wasn't. That one had been running 4.5 years. The RESP I'd opened for Sam when he was born. $800 a month. The government matches 20% on the first $2,500 every year. So I'd been putting in enough to capture the full grant every January. Lily's was opened when she arrived. Murray took his glasses off. 4 years, give or take, he said. Plus the furnace last February. Plus the dental work for your son-in-law in 2022 when his work plan didn't cover the crown. Don't. He slid the page across. Close to $140,000 rough, and your RRSP is sitting where it was in 2019. I knew that. I'd pushed the timeline back twice, once when the furnace went, once when my son-in-law came onto the policy. I hadn't told anyone. Moira had been gone 3 years by then, and the second time I pushed the retirement date back, she'd already been gone 4. I didn't tell her either, because she wasn't there to tell. What are you going to do? Murray asked. I told him I didn't know yet. That was a lie. I think he knew it was a lie and he let me keep it anyway. Here's the thing I need to be clear about, because I've had most of a year to think it over. I don't regret the money. Not one transfer. I'd have sent every one of them twice. I just wanted to know what I'd bought. I gave her a chance first. I want that on the record. I called my daughter on a Saturday evening. She picked up on the 4th ring with restaurant sound behind her. Voices, glassware, somebody laughing near the hostess stand. Hey Dad, everything okay? I didn't mention the cottage. I didn't mention Facebook. I had 100 different ways to bring it up, and I used none of them. I was thinking I'd come for dinner next Sunday, I said. See the kids. There was a pause with a lot going on in it. This month's kind of stacked, Dad. It'd probably just be you and the kids anyway. You know how Aaron gets when his schedule's full. You don't really love those big group things. I switched the phone to the other ear. Melissa, what does Sam call me now? The restaurant sounds kept going. 3 seconds of them. Someone dropped a fork somewhere. Don't make this into a thing, she said. I'm dealing with a lot right now. I'm asking a question. I have to go. They're calling us. She hung up first. I stood in the kitchen with the phone still against my ear for a second, the way you do. She hadn't asked what I meant. She hadn't said, what does he call you? Or what are you talking about? She'd said, don't make this into a thing. You only defend yourself against a question you already know the answer to. She'd known. For months she'd known. She'd sat across from me at Sam's birthday and known. I set the phone down on the counter. Then I opened the Interac app for the second time, and this time I didn't stop. The only light in the kitchen was the one above the stove. I sat down at the table and I did it in order. Transfer 1, the monthly 1400. The app asked if I was sure. I pressed confirm. Transfer 2, the insurance. That one I couldn't do from the app. Monday morning I called Intact and spoke to the agent who'd handled my policy since my first truck, a woman named Bet who'd worked that desk for 15 years. I told her to remove Aaron from my policy as a listed driver. She asked if I wanted it effective immediately or at renewal. I said immediately. She said she'd send the confirmation to both addresses on file. I said, please do. Transfer 3, I moved the RESP. I want to be careful here because this is the part people get wrong when they hear about it. That money was always for Sam and Lily. It was never for their parents. The subscriber on a family RESP can change the account. I drove 40 minutes to the credit union in Fergus on a Tuesday and had the full balance transferred into a new account with me as sole subscriber and both grandchildren as named beneficiaries. Same monthly contribution, same government grant, different hands on the door. Then I sat in the credit union parking lot and wrote my daughter a letter on a pad of paper I'd picked up at the Dollarama on the way. I mailed it because the letter can't be deleted at a red light. 4 sentences, I'd worked on them for 3 days. I told her the monthly transfer had ended. I told her the car insurance arrangement had changed. I told her the RESP was safe, still growing, and that she could see the statements anytime she wanted. And I told her this, I'm still your children's grandfather. I'm just not your bank anymore. The letter arrived Wednesday. Nobody called for 26 days. People ask what those weeks were like. Here is the honest answer. They were the best I'd felt in 3 years, and that bothered me. I took an overtime weekend with the Guelph Community Paramedicine program. They still call me in when they're short. I fixed the back fence. I called my old partner from the ambulance days, and we went to watch junior hockey on a Friday night, and neither of us mentioned anything real, which was exactly what I needed. I cooked. One night, I made the chicken and leek soup Moira used to make every October, her handwriting on the recipe card propped against the backsplash, and I got it about 70% right, which was enough. Every night around 9 I checked my phone. Nothing, not a call, not a text, not a thumbs up. On day 19 I made the mistake of opening Instagram. My daughter had posted a story. She was standing in a large empty commercial space. White walls, concrete floor, double the square footage of the little studio she'd been renting on Wellington Street. Bright voice, shaky camera, big things happening soon. I paused it and looked at the address on the window behind her. She'd signed a new lease, a bigger one, in the month after I'd stopped the transfer. The 1st of November was 11 days out. I went to work like normal. I was up a ladder at a retirement facility off Paisley, doing a training refresher when my phone went off in my vest pocket. Dad, I think there's an issue with the transfer. Did something change at your bank? I read it twice, put the phone away and finished the session. At 6 that evening I called back. My daughter answered before the first ring finished. Dad, thank God, so the transfer. There's no bank error, I said. I stopped it. I'm allowed to stop it. The sound she made, I've heard that sound twice in my life. The second time was that night. Dad, we have a mortgage. I know. You didn't even tell me. I mailed you a letter 4 weeks ago. Then my son-in-law's voice, right up close on the speaker, very calm. That was the part I hadn't prepared for, how calm he was. Kenneth, hey, let's all just take a breath here. Evening, Aaron. A pause. Then, in the exact tone of a man who's about to close something, so how long are you planning to keep this up? Not why, not what did we do, how long? He thought this was a negotiating position. He thought I was leverage in a bad month. Then he said the worst possible thing. You're punishing 2 kids over a cottage weekend. I let that sit on the line for 5 seconds. Aaron, grab a pen. I don't need. I heard a drawer. The RESP hasn't stopped, I said. It never stopped. Both kids are still on it. I moved the account to the credit union in Fergus under my name, and I'm still putting in the same amount every month. Sam and Lily are beneficiaries. They will always be beneficiaries. Silence. Balance as of last week is just under $68,000. Longer silence. I could hear my daughter saying something in the background, not into the phone. When my son-in-law came back, his voice had changed shape. You don't have the authority to hold that account by yourself. It's my money. I opened it. My name was always on it. You've never put $1 into it. That's not a fair characterization. In 2022, you two withdrew $11,000 from that account for the Portugal trip. In 2023, you took $4,500 for the truck down payment. I never said a word about either one. I'm telling you now why the account moved. Melissa got the phone back. She was crying, the real kind, not the kind that arrives on schedule. Dad, please don't do this to the kids. Here's what I said, and I've never once wished I'd said it differently. I'm not doing anything to the kids. I stopped the adults from spending the kids' money. She hung up. I stood in the kitchen with my hands shaking, and I want to be honest about that. Doing the right thing did not feel good. It just felt done. Aaron got pulled over on the 401 outside of Milton on November 9th. He handed the officer his license and his insurance card. The card was current. The policy was not. His name had been removed from my intact policy on the 1st, and he'd been driving 9 days on a piece of plastic that no longer meant anything. In Ontario, driving without valid insurance is not a warning. The minimum fine is $5,000. Mandatory license review. It goes into the provincial court filings, which every local paper has someone going through every Thursday. My son-in-law was running on the word accountability. My daughter's text came at 11 that night. 4 paragraphs. The line I remember. You are destroying everything we have worked for because you didn't get invited to Thanksgiving. I typed 3 different responses and deleted all 3. What I sent was, Interac mailed Aaron the policy change notice on October 24th. Check the counter. She didn't answer that night. In the morning, all it said was, he didn't open it. I've thought about that a lot. Whether he didn't open it, or whether she'd seen the return address and set it aside under a campaign flyer, or whether it sat for 2 weeks because neither of them actually believed the money could stop. I sent one more text and put the phone down. I'm not destroying anything. I stopped holding it up. That's not the same thing. She came to the house on a Thursday afternoon. She was crying before she got through the door. I got her the good chair from the living room and a box of tissues from the bathroom, and I sat across from her on the stairs, and I let her talk for 12 minutes without saying one word. She talked about Gloria, about how Gloria runs every group text she isn't on, about how Aaron handles every account, and she needs to ask before spending more than $200, about how she is tired in a way she can't explain, how every holiday gets decided without her, and then blamed on her when something goes wrong. Some of what she said was true. I could hear which parts. When she was done, I handed her another tissue. I've got one question, I said. Then I'll do whatever you want. She looked up. Who taught Sam to call me Ken? Her face did something I hadn't seen since she was 16, and I found the fake ID. That doesn't matter now. It's the only thing that matters right now. You tell me who taught him, and I'll turn all 3 transfers back on tonight, from this phone, right here. I put the phone on the table between us. I'm not bluffing. You know I don't bluff. The furnace kicked on. It runs about 2 minutes. She looked at the phone the whole time. She didn't say Gloria's name. She could have. It would have been easy, and I'd have half believed it. She just didn't say anything at all. And that's how I found out, sitting across from my daughter, on the stairs of my own house, with my hands on my knees. Okay, I said. I gave you a real chance, you just didn't take it. She stood to go. At the door, she said the thing that made me decide to go to that party. You never asked either, Dad. She had her hand on the door. The crying had stopped. You never once called to ask why you weren't at the cottage. Not one question. Not one time. Do you know how that reads from where I'm standing? She left. The door closed. I stood in the front hall for a long time, and I couldn't dismiss what she said, because she wasn't entirely wrong. 4 years. Every missed long weekend, every birthday where I got a text instead of a doorbell, every family photo I wasn't in. I never asked about a single one. I decided every time that asking would make me a burden, and being a burden was the one thing I would not be. But here's the part nobody tells you about choosing silence. It doesn't read as dignity. It reads as permission. Moira used to do the asking. She'd say, Kenneth wants to know about Christmas dinner, and everyone would answer her. and I'd get to keep my mouth shut and still have a place. She was my translator for 29 years, 4 years without her, and nobody was speaking for me at all. They'd been taking my quiet as a sign that I didn't need anything, that I was fine wherever I happened to land. I got the notebook I keep in my jacket pocket for shift notes, spiral bound, the kind with the pocket in the inside cover. I turned to a clean page and started writing down what I would say if I ever got to say it in a room where nobody could put me on hold. It took me 8 days. I got it down to 4 sentences. 4 is what I could say without my voice going. I know my limits. Gloria called on a Tuesday. First time in 2 years. She didn't mention money, not once the whole call. She talked about family for a while, about how these things happen in every family, about how the important thing is that children see adults behave gracefully. She used the word maturity. She mentioned that she and I were the 2 oldest ones left in all of this now, weren't we? Then she got to it. I'm having a little gathering on New Year's Eve, Kenneth, about 30 people, and I really do think you should be there. You're so important to this family. I looked out the kitchen window at the fence I'd fixed in October. I'd be glad to come, I said. Oh, wonderful. There was genuine relief in it, and it wasn't about me. She'd called because in 3 weeks there would be 30 people in a room, and a man who won't answer his phone will answer a question in front of 30 people. She was setting a table again. She just didn't know I had a reason of my own to sit at it. The court filing appeared in the Guelph Tribune Public Records column 2 weeks before the party. One line, tucked between a building permit and a property transfer. Kowalski, Aaron D., operating a motor vehicle without proof of financial responsibility. The paper runs those every Thursday in the community section. My son-in-law's campaign signs were still on lawns on Courtright Road. The slogan was "Accountability starts here." 2 of his ward donors called the campaign contact number and asked questions. In a ward race, 2 donors is most of the operating budget. New Year's Eve, I walked into Gloria's house at 7. She greeted me at the door, warm, practiced. There was a table in the dining room, laid for 28. My name was not on a card anywhere. She had invited me herself and left me nowhere to sit. My daughter was by the window, still in her coat. She saw me and went very still. My son-in-law was near the kitchen talking to 2 men in blazers, the kind of men who chair community foundation committees. He hadn't seen me yet. Then Sam came barreling around the corner at a dead run in his socks, sliding the last 3 feet on the hardwood the way he always does. "Ken, how come you're here?" 6 people nearest to us heard it. You could feel the small wince pass through the room. Gloria moved forward to redirect the moment, but a woman I didn't recognize stepped in first and extended her hand. Her name, I found out later, was Patricia, the current Ward 4 school board trustee, the one my son-in-law was trying to unseat. She'd come as a neighbor's +1, which nobody on Aaron's side had anticipated. "Kenneth," she said, "I've heard your name." She guided me to a seat at the table, her own seat, which she simply gave up. She moved herself to a side table and didn't make a production of it. Aaron saw me then. His expression stayed arranged. 20 minutes later, he tapped his glass. He thanked everyone for coming. He told a story about Gloria and what she'd taught him about family. He said family wasn't about obligation or ledgers. He smiled and let the room settle, and then he said, "Real family is about who shows up. It's about being present, not about what you're owed." There was a laugh, polite, maybe 10 people. It went around the long table and then hit a stretch where nobody laughed at all, and it died there quietly. My daughter was looking at the tablecloth. I folded my napkin and set it beside my plate. I stood up. "Aaron," I said, "could I borrow that for a second?" There was a small wireless microphone on the sideboard, set up for the midnight countdown. I pointed to it. In front of 30 people, Gloria could not say no. The room went quiet in that particular way a room does when it knows. I didn't take the notebook out of my pocket. I'd read it enough times. "My name is Kenneth Doyle," my voice held. "I'm Melissa's father, and I'm Sam and Lily's grandfather." A chair creaked somewhere. Nobody else moved. Aaron's right. Family is who shows up. I've been showing up for 4 years. I didn't look at him. I turned to face the middle of the room. For 4 years, I covered the monthly shortfall on the mortgage. I carried my son-in-law on my car insurance. I've been putting $800 a month into RESP accounts for both of my grandchildren. I paused. Last month I stopped 2 of those. The third one is still running. That one belongs to Sam and Lily, not to the adults. I set the microphone back on the sideboard. I wasn't at Thanksgiving. I'm not here tonight to embarrass anyone about that. I set my other hand on the back of my chair. I don't need to be thanked. I just needed someone to count me in. I sat down. 4 seconds. I counted them. Then the woman across from me started clapping. Then 2 women at a side table. Then most of the room. Not wild. Not a standing ovation. Something quieter than that, and for that reason harder to dismiss. It was the sound of 30 people slowly making up their minds. Gloria did not clap. She sat with her hands flat on the tablecloth, looking at the centerpiece. Aaron went out through the side door by the kitchen. My daughter stayed in her chair. I left before midnight. I'd said what I came to say. I'm not built for the part that comes after. She caught me at my truck. You humiliated me in front of everyone I know. No tears this time. That was how I knew we were finally having the real conversation. I said my name, I said what's true. If the true part is humiliating, Melissa, that's not something I did. She stood in Gloria's driveway, with her arms wrapped around herself in the cold. It was me, she said. Sam, teaching him to call you, Ken, it was me. I waited. Gloria kept correcting him at dinners, calling herself Grandma, making the whole thing confusing. And Aaron said it would be simpler if Sam just used your name at family events. And she stopped. It was easier to go along with it than to fight about it every single weekend. I know. You don't know what it's like in that house. Then tell me. And she did, some of it. About the group text she isn't on. About needing Aaron's approval before she spends more than $200 on anything. About last spring, when Aaron told her that if she couldn't get on board with how his family operated, they should look at the whole arrangement, and mentioned that his cousin practiced family law in Hamilton. She was 24 when I walked her up the aisle. I thought he was a serious young man. Dad, are we okay? I looked at her for a long moment. No, I said, not yet. She flinched. I let her. I'm not angry that you were afraid. I'm sad that you let me pay for it. I opened the truck and took an envelope off the dash. I'd had it there for 3 days. Inside was 1 page, the credit union account number, both kids' names and birth dates, the current balance, and the branch phone number in Fergus. You can call them anytime, I said. They'll read you the balance over the phone. You don't need my permission for anything on that page. She held it with both hands. Ward 4 went to the incumbent trustee by 61 votes. My son-in-law withdrew from the recount when the full insurance citation came up in the Tribune's post-election rap piece. His campaign manager, apparently, had not been told about the driving record when she signed on. Gloria and I don't speak. We see each other at school pickups now and then. We nod. That is the arrangement, and I have made my peace with it. My daughter started seeing a counselor in Fergus, far enough from home that nobody recognizes the car. I didn't ask for details, and she didn't offer them. There are doors you let a person walk through at their own speed. She and Aaron separated in the spring. I want to be careful about how I say this. That was not my doing. I never said one word to my daughter about her marriage, before or after, and I'm not going to start now. What happened is that she learned to say no, and it turned out that in that house, no was a load-bearing wall. The RESP crossed $71,000 in July. I still put the $800 in on the 1st of every month. I haven't mentioned that number to anyone except Francis and Murray, and now you. My daughter called me in March. The studio on Wellington had turned a profit for the first time. Not a big one, $1,400 for the quarter, but hers. She was crying on the phone, and it was the good kind. Canadian Thanksgiving came around again. My daughter called me 3 weeks ahead and asked what I could bring. She said there's a spot at the table and she'd like me there. Not as a maybe, as a plan. I brought pie from the bakery on Woolwich, because I tried to make it twice, and both times it came out wrong. And at 57, I have stopped performing competence in areas where I have none. Sam met me at the door. Grandpa, he said, no pause before it, like it had always been. Inside there was a card propped on my plate, construction paper, rough cut, colored in with washable markers, Grandpa Kenneth on the front. The N in Kenneth was backwards. I looked at Sam. He pointed at his sister. She did the writing part, he said. I told her how to spell it. Lily climbed up onto the chair beside mine before I'd even sat down. You can have my spot, she said. That's your spot, I said. I'll sit in mine. Mine was at the end closest to the kitchen, the end where you can get up to refill everyone's water without making anyone move their chair. It's where Moira used to sit. I'd watched her get up from that spot for 29 years. Nobody took a photo of that dinner. At one point, my daughter reached for her phone and then set it face down on the counter and said, "No, let's just eat." And we did. Here's what I want to leave you with, because I've had most of a year to sort out what I actually learned from all of this. It isn't about the money, even though the money matters. It isn't about the school board race, or the insurance citation, or the photo on Facebook. It's this. Silence is not the same as peace. I spent 4 years telling myself that staying quiet was graceful, that not asking was respectful, that writing checks without comment was a kind of love, and it was. But love that never speaks for itself gets mistaken for landscape, for something permanent that requires nothing back, that will be there, regardless. That doesn't need to be invited. I should have asked earlier. I should have said I'm coming to Thanksgiving. I should have said my name goes on the list before the reservation gets made. Not because I was owed a seat, but because a person who never asks for one eventually stops being seen as someone who needs one. If nobody is putting your name on that table, you are allowed to stop clearing it, but you are also allowed to ask for your chair, out loud, before it is gone. Sam called me last week. Video call, his face about 6 inches from the camera, one nostril taking up the whole bottom half of the screen. He wanted to show me a diagram he'd drawn of how an AED works. I'd explained it to him once, and he'd apparently been thinking about it ever since. He held the phone up to his school tablet. Hearts and arrows and 2 little paddles, all labeled in his handwriting. "Is that right, Grandpa?" he asked. It was mostly right. "Pretty close," I said. "We'll work on the rest on Wednesday." "Can we do the lamp thing again too?" "Wednesday is my day with them now, not when it is convenient, every Wednesday." "Yeah," I said. "Wednesday." He hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand in the same kitchen, where I'd stared at 4 transfer lines a year ago, and I thought about the difference between those 2 moments. Not much had changed on paper. Same walls, same table, same phone. But the first time, I was a number someone had deliberately left out of the count. The second time, my name was on a piece of construction paper with a backwards N, propped on a plate that someone had set out before I walked through the door. That's the whole thing, really. It doesn't have to be the center of the table. It just has to be a seat with your name on it, put there before you arrive.